Everybody, welcome to the latest meeting of the Audit and Standards Committee. First of all, do we have any apologies from anybody? No? Second item then is, does anybody need to make any declaration of interest in relation to any of the items on the agenda? No? Very good. Item number 3 then is the minutes of the previous meeting. Is everybody happy that they're a true and accurate record of the meeting? Those who are, yeah, okay. There was one item on there that members had asked about, and Sam's just come along. He's going to just give you a little bit more information on it. So whenever you're ready, Sam, please.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, I've been asked by members to come back and explain about the cyber incident and preparedness and response effectiveness report, which was completed. I'm pleased to advise members that following the test exercise, which will take place in a couple of weeks, we'll be submitting the final response back to the audit team to close off that with all recommendations completed. So just wanted to come back and obviously explain around that, obviously given the importance of that cyber incidents across councils. We've seen obviously a number, and some authorities are still obviously experiencing those issues. So it was right that we prioritise that, and we have done, and we'll be submitting that back to the audit team.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Is everybody happy with that? It's not strictly speaking on the agenda, so we don't really want to get into discussions about it. Item number 4 then is the internal audit progress update for Q3 2025-6, and Debbie's going to give us some information on that whenever you're ready, please.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm standing in for Alex Cannon this evening. So this is the regular progress report, allowing members to scrutinise the work of the internal audit function. This report is also necessary as it allows members to have scrutiny over the function and also have that transparency of the reporting process. It also allows us to provide evidence and demonstrate that we do conform with the global internal audit standards in the UK public sector, and also the CIPFA's code of practice for governance of internal audit functions. So this progress report covers the period from the 1st of October 2025 through to the 31st of December 2025. And since the last progress report, there have been 2 audits that have been finalised. There have been 4 reports that are currently at draft report, and there are a number of audits that are currently in fieldwork. 2 has been where the fieldwork has been completed and is currently in QA with the relevant audit manager. You will see in a moment at paragraph 2.4 that there are 2 audits that are still to be scheduled in prior to the end of the financial year. So in terms of the 2 completed audits, they are the new customer relation management system and also the taxi licensing internal audit review. As the CRM system audit was classified as a top risk review in accordance with our reporting protocol, which is within the charter, that does come to this committee in full, and that is attached as Appendix 1 to this report. And we'll go into the findings of that in a little more detail a little bit later. However, it was a positive assurance opinion. It was adequate assurance. However, there were 6 medium level recommendations and 3 low level recommendations that have been made. And again, I'll run through that with you in a few moments, but they largely related to project governance type weaknesses. The second audit that was finalised was the taxi licensing audit, and it's pleasing to note that that was a substantial assurance opinion, and that gave a positive assurance over compliance with the statutory legislation, robust safeguarding and vetting arrangements, as well as clear governance processes. So again, that is pleasing to note. In terms of progress against the whole of the internal audit plan, that's documented at 2.4, which is on page 13, an overleaf on page 14 of your pack. You will see that the remainder of the work is scheduled to be carried out in Q4, and that's largely in line with the pattern that we tend to have here at the Borough Council. We will ensure that those two audits that have not started yet will be scheduled in shortly. However, we do have the resources, and that those pieces of work have already been allocated to auditors. However, all work will be completed in readiness for the completion of the annual governance statement that gets reported through to this committee as well. In terms of cancelled audits, we have had one cancelled audit, which is the new fleet management system. That was an advisory piece of work, which was to look at the IT system once it had come into place. However, that project has been slightly delayed, I understand, at the moment. So again, it will be re-looked at as part of the annual audit planning process for 26-27. And should that work be required, it would be included in the 26-27 internal audit plan. To replace that cancelled audit, we have an audit which is in relation to trade waste, and that has been added to the 25-26 audit plan. And that will largely look at the governance arrangements surrounding the service, but with particular focus around income and billing as well. So that'll be the focus of that audit when it commences. In relation to counter fraud, we continue to triage any referrals that come through in relation to Newcastle Borough Council. Straight after Christmas, we did have one referral that we are currently working with the service on, and this relates to a potential polygamous employment fraud. That's where you have one individual that has been working at more than one authority at the same time. So we're currently supporting the service through that investigation at the moment. Also, we continue to undertake our continuous controls monitoring work as well. So that's where we use various data analytics to highlight any potential issues or anything that requires further investigation. So we're currently focusing on invoices, looking for duplicate invoices, and also purchase cards as well, looking for anything that's erroneous or potentially strange that may warrant our further investigation. In relation to recommendations, as you know, we have an audit management system, and as part of that, we do have a recommendation tracking portal called K10, and that is great for the visibility of recommendations, and it does allow auditees to, in real time, give updates on those recommendations that have been assigned to them. So we do track those recommendations. There are two notifications that are received. One, when a recommendation is going to become due within 30 days, and then thereafter, when a recommendation is overdue, the auditees get further notifications. So as of the 20th of January, when this report was produced, there are 150 recommendations that we're currently tracking. 53% of those have been implemented, and you can see on page 16 the table that splits out those recommendations further into implemented, risk accepted, those that have been superseded, and those that have not yet been implemented. So that may well be that they're not overdue or they're overdue. Also recorded at paragraph 2.14, you will see that the percentage of those recommendations that have been implemented has gone up from 44 to 53%. And Alex will continue to work with the corporate leadership team to try and also improve that percentage even more during 26-27. We are going to be implementing and producing and rolling out dashboards, which will give greater visibility of those recommendations to the corporate leadership team. So that will be a great sort of tool to sort of help monitor those in greater detail. Of those 16 overdue recommendations, none of those are high priority, so that's also positive, and we will continue to track all those recommendations, requesting updates for those that are overdue. Moving on to page 19 of your pack, this is now the internal audit review in its entirety relating to the new customer relationship management system. This was an IT audit. You will see on page 22 of your pack, this details at paragraph 1.1.3 of the audit report the scope of this audit, and it relates to the project governance and also some of the IT system controls around user access, user testing, data migration. So there were 6 medium level recommendations made and 3 low level recommendations made. All of the medium recommendations largely relate to project governance. So that's around having a fully completed project initiation document, making sure that the project roles are clearly documented, also that there was a communications plan, and also that project risks were properly recorded and any actions logged. There was nothing that was particularly technical from an IT point of view as part of this report. So we gave this an adequate assurance opinion as a result of the findings from our work. So, Chair, I'm happy to take any questions in relation to that progress report or the CRM system report. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Debbie. Do we have any questions on the reports? Mike? Yep.
Yeah, just one, Paul. And it's not really to yourselves, it's more to do with the officers. So the 6 medium recommendations and the 3 lower recommendations, have they been fulfilled? Because looking at the reports, I think the latest date I've seen is the 24th of December. Have these actions been carried out, or are we still waiting to do them?
Just to clarify, is it on the CRM audit? I just wanted to check it wasn't the other data. Yeah, so just to explain, so the CRM project to start with was a proof of concept. Now that's moved into an actual physical project in terms of implementation. That's where the project governance policies and procedures have now been put in place. So if I run down the list, all but the very bottom one, which is due for the end of March, have been completed. But in terms of the user rights, that's obviously an ongoing one as we develop the system, bring on new modules. But just to add on to that, our philosophy and approach on that is around least access. So we don't copy permissions, for example, so there's no scope creep around people accessing things that they shouldn't do. So whilst I could say that one's ticked off officially, obviously as the project continues, we'll formulate that official user roles and access.
Thank you, Chair.
Well, Phil.
Thanks. Yeah, so the project initiation document, has that been approved now? Because that was one of the weaknesses in the...
Yeah.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to follow on. So yeah, absolutely. So the project initiation document has been, obviously, as we moved it from a proof of concept where it was to see whether the new solution could work for us, obviously, before we procure it. That's where we've now moved it into a physical project, and a physical document. So what the project aims and objectives are and how we're going to implement that within the budgetary scope and time and resources.
Do we have any other questions or any other points that people wish to make? No? Okay. Thanks, Sam and Debbie. Thank you very much. In that case, then, are we happy to note the progress on the internal audit plan and note the progress on the implementation of the audit recommendations? Yep. Okay. Thank you. Item number 5 then is the Corporate Risk Management Report for Q3 2024-25-26. And Anthony's going to give us a little bit more information on that, please.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Yeah, this is the Q3 regular report to this committee. The headline recommendations, just to start, is to note that there are currently no risks that are more than 6 months overdue for a review up to the end of Q3 25-26. To note there's been 1 risk level increase. I'll come to these in a moment individually. And to note that 2 new risks have been added. Also to further note the corporate risk register profile and the usual provisions in relation to advices that individual risk profiles for the committee would like anything that the committee would like to scrutinise in more detail at its next meeting. And finally, to note that whilst the likelihood of a risk materialising may be mitigated, the likely impacts may not change. So they're the headline recommendations. If I can turn to the issues, particularly in section 2 of the report, there are currently no, as I say, overdue risks more than 6 months. The ones that I would highlight is that during the last quarter, there was one risk that rose in priority to a medium D, I believe, which is in relation to, it went from an amber C to an amber D, which was the air quality risk in the corporate risk register. A little more information is provided there, it has been so reported because there's been a delay in relation to a ministerial direction regarding the elevating of the likely potential risk occurring. In relation to the other two new risks referenced in the report, they are set out in Appendix A, and they are both in the area of food safety. And I know that we've got new staff in this area, which is obviously good, and I believe that they've picked up on some new assessments that they believe should be carried out, and they are in relation to failure of sampling risk and a risk to failure to adequately assess an event in relation to health and safety arrangements, and that is recorded in the corporate risk register. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Do we have any questions on this report? Anybody? Mark?
Sorry, Councillor Holland, sorry.
In relation to the ministerial directive on air quality, I understand that the risk has gone up. Is that because this authority has failed to do something, or because the minister has failed to do something?
I think I may answer that in a rather diplomatic fashion, if I may. I'm satisfied from where I'm sitting in terms of this authority that it is not anything that we have not done that we could have done at the current time. I wouldn't really want to open a Pandora's box in this meeting and go into the wheres and wherefores of who else, whether it be other local authorities or indeed government ministers, could have assisted or may assist in the future. But I would just emphasise that this has been an ongoing, long-standing concern with air quality. It's one that's faced by every local authority. We're not alone in that, and we are cognizant of the risk, and that's why I'm bringing it to this committee. And that's probably as much as I would want to say at the current time. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Yes, Phil.
Thanks. And just on that, when does that risk escalate then, in terms of potential impact?
Well, I mean, clearly, if in terms of our own risk registers, we have to escalate it in the sense of we're saying that the risk increases by virtue of the fact of not having absolute clarity in guidance. One might call it statutory guidance or ministerial guidance. This is where, if you get into the body of the report, as to how, and you'll be experienced, councillor, of course, yourself, to know that the word risk worries people. But I would merely say that it is the fact that we are aware that this is a risk that we have no choice but to accept at the current time. So it's not a risk that I would say has increased in a, if I might say, a real tangible sense. It's one that we just have to be cognizant of the fact that we are in this situation, as are many other local authorities.
Joan, yep.
Just an observation, really. When you set out with a project and you have a target, what happens is that things change. And if you don't go along with those changes and don't adapt to them, then the risk can escalate. The one thing you can't ever be is risk averse. So as long as it's in the contemplation, then you're covered from a culpability point of view, I would say.
I don't know if that requires a response, but I think Councillor Wheeldon expresses it very well. Thank you.
Mark?
In relation to one of the two new risks that was added to the register, failure to adequately assess event health and safety arrangements, was that a single event that you mentioned, our officer mentioned, or does it refer to events generally? So it's been added as a risk to the register. Is it likely to stay there in relation to events generally? or is it referring to a single event?
Sorry, just bear with me a moment. Apologies. I believe it does relate to all events. It's not a single event. I don't have chapter and verse, I'll be honest, on exactly how the officers came to this conclusion, but that's the position, and I can provide with more details if required. Thank you.
From that, I understand that our officers are incredibly and ever vigilant. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions or comments? No. In that case then, do we want officers to provide us with any information on individual risk profiles? No? Okay, in that case then, are we happy to note the recommendations as listed 1 to 4 and number 6 in the agenda? Yeah, go on, Joan.
Just a comment, I don't think it could be any more thorough than what we've got in front of us at the moment.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay, then. Okay, so I'll take it that we have noted those items. Item number 6 then is the work programme. Has anybody got any comments or requirements, issues, things in relation to the work programme? We've got, in this particular council, we've only got one further meeting in any case, which is on the 27th of April. And it has a number of things on there, which are probably fairly time consuming already. But if anybody's got anything that they feel need to be added, we can certainly look at that. No? No. Okay, well, in that case, we've been notified of no urgent business. So thank you, everybody, for your attendance and your assistance. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.